Welcome, everyone. We will start checking whether all the participants are in our platform. You have a minute, and then we will start ASAP. Just checking on our crowd manager. Are we already? Yeah, participants coming in. The room is getting more crowded. That's very good. Thank you very much. Welcome to all of you being present here at our webinar highlights of the CSRD Day. I am Menno van Leeuwen. I'm your moderator for today, and also I'm the CSRD commercial lead at Impact Institute. CSRD is hot. So let me take you back to the beginning of October. We organized the CSRD Day for the 12th of November, but then we were already fully booked and lots of people wanted to be on the guest list. We made some exemptions, but then we thought, okay, for everybody who couldn't be there, we need to organize a webinar, and that is today. So thank you for joining, and we will give you some highlights of that day, but we also look forwards and see what's ahead of CSRD. Before I start explaining the program, some house rules. So on this platform, we have a special Q&A section. So please have a look at the right below of your laptop, and you have a Q&A button, and you can drop your questions. So we like to have it interactive. Please post your questions there. If some of the speakers make statements you have a question about, we will try to get back to that either during the session, so we have some time left, or like you see now in the program, we have a quarter reserved for Q&A. But of course, we can also get back to you one-on-one. Well, you have a view now on the program. Of course, Michel Scholte, the co-founder of Impact Institute and the CSRD Day, he will take you through the highlights. And then we're very pleased that one of the CSRD award winners, so a best example of a CSRD aligned report, Schijvens, will be participating. So Jeske, we'll see you in a couple of minutes sharing your tips to the audience. And then Michel will take us to 2025 about what's happening in this political arena and where we can anticipate on. And then last but not least, we have something special to conclude with. So already we launched our software tooling during the CSRD Day, and especially for you today, of course, we will demo it, but there is something to gain because 3 participants, they will receive today, they will be picked. At the end of the session, we will mention your names, and you will get this really kickstart for your CSRD, which we call the Impact Risk and Opportunities Quick Scan. More of that to follow. But now I really love to give the digital floor, to the co-founder of Impact Institute and also the co-founder of the CSRD Day. Here is Michel Scholte.
Thank you so much, Menno. It's a real pleasure to sit in front of you on Sinterklaas Day in the Netherlands, which is a day for giveaways. And that is why we will give to one of you a prize, or actually 2 or 3. I'm not sure what the actual number. 3 participants, actually. Okay, a free data-driven. So we're really, really generous today. Data-driven, I will quick scan, and Tim will talk to you about it. Mr. Lower cost, higher impact using data. So a bit about the CSD Academy. So we do exploration, learning, application, and also provide support for CSD. We have actually contributed moderately to the CSRD law through the Natural Capital Protocol, and also we received through our impact accounting work a prize by the United Nations Accounting Association through our impact accounting work that we do together with Harvard Business School. Now we've in 2024 become the, I would say, largest impact learning community on CSRD, with 750 professionals trained, 100 companies joining our courses, 650 visitors of the CSD Day, 30 plus partners of CSD Day, and also 30 participants of the CSD Awards. So it's really a kind of growing movement for an extremely exciting regulatory development. Now, highlights of the CSD Day, that's why you are here. So what is the vision of CSRD Day? That is to set a benchmark where CSD is not just seen as a regulatory requirement, but also as an opportunity to create a real impact and provide more sustainable production and consumption systems. Together with Van der Molen, AES, Smart Workplace, Impact Institute, embarked on this endeavor to set up this day. And also we initiated the CSD Awards, and that is to celebrate, to highlight, to put light on those companies that really show good practices. How can this be done? How can this vision be brought into practice? And that is in partnership with the Dutch Association for Registered Accountants, also for SME accountants, MBA and ESRA, Global Compact, the Association of Environmental Professionals, Medion, the Association of Listed Investors, and the CSD Academy. And what it ultimately is about, that is the orange arrow. Dependencies, and that is a key part of CSRD, as you can see in the gray area, that is something that is kind of, well, in the interest of companies, that they address that, provide disclosures about that, and actually internalize. And that is actually already something that is prescribed on climate, for example, by the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. And that is something that is kind of picked up rapidly because, yeah, obviously, when there's risks and opportunities for companies, you are supposed to, in line with the IFRS and other, for example, the US GAAP accounting conventions, you are supposed to provide disclosures about that. However, for the impacts and as the effects of companies on stakeholders, that is not so obvious because, well, if it doesn't give you money, if it doesn't provide risks, but it still affects stakeholders, why would you actually address that as a company if you just focus on shareholder value? And that is the unique contribution of CSRD and kind of the unique contribution of the European Commission to capital markets and real economics, that impact is now part of the language in boardrooms, part of the conversation. And that silent voices of nature, that voices of people who are unheard because they're exploited and don't have power. People in value chains that, you know, provide the goods and services that we have in our stores or the food on our plates, those voices, they are now for the first time actually being addressed. And we need to really ensure that the reports that we bring forward are sincerely addressing those voices, and also that we find improvement programs. And that obviously also includes future generations. Now, this is not just a movement by the organizers of the CSD Day and the CSD Awards. It's much broader. There's a huge kind of ecosystem of service providers and solution providers emerging. And you can see here all the participants and partners of the CSD Day. We're very grateful that they joined this endeavor. And they were also part of the marketplace, and participants had the opportunity to see what their innovations are and to set up these partnerships. Now let's look into the plenary program. The plenary program, there are 6 key highlights, and there were a variety of speakers, including myself, also Wim Bartels, Mildred Hofkes, Chantal Ine, obviously, as the opening speaker, and also Jan-Peter Balkenende, former Prime Minister and also visionary with regards to sustainable economy, and Laura van Geest, the chair of the AFM, Dick de Waard, the chair of the jury, and also Werner Schouten, the director of the Impact Economy Foundation, and Volkert Engelsman, the former CEO of EOSTA, a variety of speakers that all really shared this vision. And what was kind of key in these plenary contributions is the urgency for action. 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries are surpassed. That was emphasized by Wim Bartels, also Mildred Hofkes. Also, CSD as an opportunity. How can we transition from just transparency to transformation? And I myself in my keynote emphasized the need for transaction. the need for incorporation of this in purchase decisions by clients, by investors, by states through procurement, and also by fiscal authorities to ensure that actually those who do better on these indicators, that they also are rewarded for their superior performance on impact. And then best practices were shared, the emphasis on clear, actionable reporting structures tailored to organizational needs. And actually what was really striking was that Wim Bartels actually went a few decades back and showed that Shell, one of the companies that are scrutinized for their, well, arguably for their challenges with regards to the climatological impact, they actually were quite transparent already back in the days, but did they actually take the steps needed to become kind of in line with the vision of Europe to have a net zero emission economy? Well, you may ask whether that's the case. And he really highlighted that well and showed that nicely. Good governance, emphasized by Mildred, that really we need leadership. Leadership to make sure that this is not just transparency, but actually transformation. Also, the excellence that was recognized during the CSD Awards, obviously, I will get to that in a bit. And also finally, future vision. So what are actually the growth demands? What is the growing demand for accountability, for collaboration, and also, how can we ensure that value creation is actually rewarded? And so these were kind of the key points brought by the various speakers. I think what I really liked was also Laura van Geest as the chair of the AFM, kind of who really encouraged companies and emphasized that the double materiality assessment is the most important part of the report. A sincere conversation with stakeholders that can help companies identify what is material and put things on the agenda and ensure that you're actually addressing needs of clients, needs of suppliers. Now, a nice matrix that was provided by Wim Bartels was there's kind of these different dimensions to how you can address reporting on performance and also on reporting. And on the bottom left, you can actually have low performance on sustainability and also not so ambitious reporting. And that he considers a kind of frozen, call it stagnation and not real progress. And he says we need to really go to the bottom right, that is sustainable synergy, where you have actual performance met with actual transparency. And the question is, how can we get there? The highlights of the sessions, there was emphasis and also best practice on double materiality. There was also some highlights on CSD auditing, food sector session with the CSD avocado. Some of you have tasted them. I'm very curious for those who participated, how it tasted. Supply chain governance, strengthening the multi-tier supply chains and integrating CSD requirements. That was emphasized in one of the sessions. Data and reporting tools, and also future governance, integrating SDGs and water footprint reporting for long-term societal and environmental impact. This session was really appreciated by those participating. Now, that was the day and the substance of the program. Other highlights are related to the CSD Awards. And in a bit, we'll look with Schijvens, how they do this in practice as a SME enterprise. The CSD Awards are actually a follow-up of a long-lasting tradition in the Netherlands. From 1995 onwards, we had a kind of a ranking of sustainability reports. And since this is now mandatory, instead of having kind of this stick, we are now more focusing on a carrot and thought, hey, can we put, shed lights on those who do well? The winners are Philips and Schijvens. Early adopters were celebrated. There was even a short list of Ahold Delhaize, ASR, Heijmans, Viterra, Signify, Arte, and a beautiful story on the SME side. Those companies that were, kind of encouraged and highlighted as good practitioners. And also, there was quite a large evaluation process, a short list, as I said, and these partners were already highlighted. And what we will do next is in 2025, we'll have a more elaborate prize, the CSD Awards, let's say 2.0. And it's not just encouragement, but we will actually have reports that comply in this new edition. And so it will be much more elaborate effort with a jury and with a really large adjudication process. Now, let me briefly highlight Philip's kind of what was kind of considered encouraging. They were extremely upfront about challenges, extensive data, and reasonable assurance was received on several topics. And reasonable assurance is really complicated, so it's really something that the jury considered impressive. And also, they did not just have transparency, but also they were committed to actually make a change. And one of the pieces in the report is an environmental profit and loss statement that in particular was considered a innovative piece of work. Now, Schijvens, we'll get to that now in 30 seconds. They were extremely upfront also about their challenges, about the risks, and also in focusing on circular business practices. That was something they highlighted. And really the jury was extremely impressed by how open and upfront they were about their challenges and how also their strategy reflected their mission, and there was kind of this coherence. So they would be put into the top right corner of the visual that I just shared, really as sustainable synergy. So these are just the highlights. This is not just an event, it's a journey. And in 2025, we will gather together again, and there will be some key moments where it's not just for reporting entities, but also for the service providers. There's ample opportunity to learn, to share, and to really make sure that we get through this together. So let me give the floor back to Menno and also to Schijvens for sharing their reporting practices.
Super. Thank you very much, Michel. So I guess we have to book a very large event space next year, being a very, very hot year for Csrd in 2025. I'd like to give the floor now to Jeske van Korven. She is the Csrd, she's the Corporate Social Responsibility Manager, so not yet the Csrd in your title, Jeske. Can you take over? I will flip the slides for you and share your best practices with your impact reporting, please.
Yes, sure. Thank you for having me today. So my name is Jeske and I'm responsible for CSR at Schijvens, working on social and environmental compliance for over 10 years already. At Schijvens, we make corporate fashion for retailers, logistic companies, and facility providers such as Albert Heijn, HEMA, KLM, McDonald's, and many more. We have been doing this for over 160 years already. We are a family-owned company. We have always produced uniforms in-house, but of course times changed, and nowadays it's not possible to produce in the Netherlands anymore. So we work with a stable and relatively small group of suppliers today, and step by step together with them, and also with our customers and other stakeholders, we work towards making our supply chain more sustainable. Of course, we are very pleased to have won the CSRD awards in our category, and it's a great motivation to continue our work. Although we are not mandatory at Schijvens yet, we see the CSRD as a great way to investigate even better where our opportunities and challenges lie. And of course, our clients are also starting to request data from us to do their reporting. So that's of course an extra motivation to already start with the preparations. And our aim is to start reporting next year over our current book year. In our report, we already include our due diligence processes, and hereby we focus on 10 topics that we consider high risk in the textile industry, and also specifically in our supply chain. And we try to keep it clear, readable, simple. What are our goals, for example, on living wage, which is one of the topics. We focus mainly on 3 top priorities in which we think we can make a high impact in workers' lives, but also on the environmental part. And we also communicate about the actions that are required to achieve our goals and who is responsible. And it's already partially aligned with the CSRD reporting standards, but we're not there yet. So we still have lots of things to do. Reporting is not really new to us. We are already reporting as of 2010. We are publishing our annual sustainability report, in which we communicate about all of our efforts, challenges in the field of sustainability. We did face some challenges along the way to get where we are standing today. In particular, when we started to relocate our production, we lost sight of the working environment in those new factories that we started working with. And we really had no idea of the possible risk that this might entail. We soon discovered that the standards over there were a lot different than here in the Netherlands. The first factory that we visited in China appeared to be unsafe working conditions, limited emergency exits. And that's what we could see with our own eyes, let alone what the situation was with wages, working hours, etc. So we decided that had to change, and that's really where our due diligence process started. We became a member of Fair Wear Foundation to get insight into risks and the labor standards at factories that we work with, and also to get a clear picture of the overall risks in each of the production countries that we were sourcing from and wanted to source from. We delved into available tools and information, such as country studies from Fair Wear Foundation, but also the MVO Risk Checker, and later on also, for example, Modin's due diligence tool. Due diligence is, of course, all about conducting a risk analysis, which is already similar to the CSRD reporting. What we're doing for the last 10 years already, looking at what's happening in your chain, investigating when things are unclear, and ultimately taking steps to address issues that don't align with your standards. And it was no easy task. Our supply chain consists of many steps, links that each add something to our product. It's not just the sewing factory, but also the supplier of raw materials, whether recycled clothing or new cotton, the knitter or weaver, the dyer, the embroiderer, the printer, etc. So it's not just one factory per step, because one sewing factory might be great for jackets, but you need another one to handle shirts and so on. So it's a really, it can be a really complex supply chain. Let me see. And one factory may be good for small quantities and one for big quantities. So in the end, it's quite a broad supply chain, and we decided to make it as small as possible. So it's more easy also to work closely together on sustainable actions. Does this jungle of suppliers relieve us from the responsibility to ensure everything runs smoothly at every step? Well, we certainly don't think so, and that's where our due diligence comes in. So you first map out all of the links, creating a kind of call tree, who is behind whom and why. Then you assess each link. How are they doing? What are they doing good? What could be improved? Do you really need all of these facilities? And then you can really set priorities on where to start to improve things. Because as much as we want to have a perfect world tomorrow, that seems not possible, of course. But we do need to take our responsibility, because already in our own chain alone, Csrd indirectly takes responsibility for tens of thousands of people, while our own office, of course, just have less employees, about 100. But in total, it's really a lot of people involved in the production of our products. And we believe that even if you're a small disruptor like us, you can really still try and challenge the current situation, build best practices, provide suppliers with new insights, inform stakeholders, and really take steps forward. And that doesn't mean our supply chain is 100% compliant, but we work hard every day to keep improving it. For example, on gender equality in Pakistan, which we consider as a high risk. We try to give women an opportunity there to enter the labor market and develop themselves. But also on living wages, we created our own living wage tool, which we step by step enroll other factories in. And our third priority is on circularity. And back in 2016, we already set up our system in which we collect old worn clothing, and we make new yarns and eventually new clothing from it to reduce our footprint. So taking all of these steps is of course only possible if you work with a stable group of suppliers. Find partners who want to work together with you, and also for the long term, which is really important, of course. And in this way, you build trust, and therefore, we were also able to get data on all the different links in the supply chain, and also to make improvements, especially also further down the supply chain where you normally don't really have contact with. And in addition, we also rate our suppliers and provide them a bonus if they score well on social and environmental compliance, and if they are transparent and communicate open and honestly with us. And we also make agreements with them on what they also can expect from us in this journey. And I think also important to highlight is that we also communicate about sensitive topics, such as finding child labor in our chain and how we've dealt with it. And I know it can be challenging, of course, to communicate about these topics, but in our experience, by being open and transparent, we actually gain a lot of understanding and created trust, because you're sharing the real story, and providing reliable information is of course very important, especially in these times where there's a lot of greenwashing still. And I think lastly, it's good to keep in mind that it is a continuous process, of course, and not an annual tick in the box. So we review our action plans on a regular basis, adapt where needed, and we also communicate about it. So if things were not feasible to achieve, we communicate about why not, or when we are planning to do it in the future, so that your story is really complete and reliable. So that was basically our part for today, I think. So if you have any questions, then please fill them in the chat.
Yes, thank you very much, Jeske. I'm looking at the chat, so everybody, you can still drop your questions to either Michel or Jeske in the Q&A. We will get back to that, but I think it was really impressive, Jeske. So both from the transparency side, but also like why you do this. It's all about your sustainability, transformational ambitions. So I hope many of the companies who are viewing this session right now, or downloading it or viewing it via our platform, they will be inspired. Maybe just one question before we go to looking ahead, Jeske. So you are really way ahead, because over the year 2025 you have to comply. What is your take on next year? Now we can read your report already for over last year. What do you think will be your report next year? Already Csrd aligned?
Our goal is to report end of next year. So by the end of 2025, we hope to have a report which is Csrd aligned over our current book year of 2024. So hopefully we will manage that on time.
Okay, well, we are looking forward to that, and I think that's really what is interesting about next year, is that now we are really guessing how these reports will look like, how your competitors will do this, or your value chain partners. But of course, we will be entering the phase where we will get these real examples with limited assurance, and then you can already use that for yourself as a kickstart, as a comparison. So thank you very much, Jeske, for sharing this. I will now give the floor back again to Michel about this topic. What's coming in 2025? We're in a quite interesting political landscape. Michel, can you give the audience your flavor on what's coming up?
Of course, it's a pleasure to do that. And I can imagine that there's a few new people who entered the call that they are wondering, where are we in the program? So we have talked about the CSD Day, about the CSD Awards, and also we just heard about Schijven's journey in this exciting endeavor of CSD reporting. And now I will just highlight a few key trends in 2025, what to expect, and also give some reflection on what we see in the trenches of the European Commission and with regards to the upcoming regulatory push. And after that, stick with us because Tim, our data tech colleague, he will share the presents, the giveaway, 3 companies that have been selected to receive a CSD IRO automatically generated IRO quick scan. So that is something to look forward to. So 3 key developments. The ESRS in fuller force, I think that is obvious, and that was part of the plan altogether. Also, the voluntary European Sustainability Reporting Standards for SMEs, the VSME standard, that is expected to be delivered and also accessible. And finally, the omnibus. Now, let me highlight those 3 key developments. Well, obviously, the scope will be expanded. And then we have in the Netherlands, depending on exactly what is the threshold and who will be part of this and who won't. Well, in all frankness, we haven't actually fulfilled the adoption of the CSRD law in the Netherlands. So we are kind of lawless when it comes to this. We are one of the exceptions, together with, I suppose, Germany and a variety of other member states. We don't have the adoption of CSD in our national law, but we do have a draft, and it's really likely that that draft will be adopted in the new year. And we can expect that it is, 4,500 companies or so that will need to start reporting, in total 4,500 or so that needs to report in 2026 over 2025. So they need to really get into action mode this year. The third-party verification that will become the norm, and that also in the Netherlands entails registered auditors in the draft law. In other countries, there's other arrangements. For example, France. There's also other types of assurance providers that are allowed. For example, a niche social or niche environmental assurance providers. Also, a greater scrutiny of supply chains and stakeholder disclosures beyond shareholders are expected. I mean, we still have looming at the horizon the Csrd, and that is still, part of a legislatory procedure. But we do expect that will become somehow part of the coming years regulatory context, and therefore more and more of those value chain players are adopting this. Also, the EUDR, the European Deforestation Regulation, that was I think it was yesterday or the day before officially delayed for 1 year. I think one of the key reasons for that was a variety of American congressmen and women that actually really demanded from the European Commission to give more time for a diligent adoption. And the EU said, without adjusting the law, we actually do give 1 more year for companies to get ready. And what is also key is digitization, that we actually will have a single European point of access, expectedly in 2027, where not just the financial, but also non-financial information will be absorbed in one data cloud, managed by the European Single Market Authority. And that will be provided to rating agencies and also opened up for the public. So really a lot of digitization. The VSME standards, key to highlight, is that, well, it's actually, to my knowledge, it's the basic and more advanced modules for that include, I think it's 9 or so, and 15 data points that is required. It's a simplified list of data points that SME companies are required to deliver. There's still a lot of discussion actually in Brussels on consistency, for example, with the taxonomy requirements, and they try to ensure that there's not kind of duplication from different types of regulatory frameworks. I get to that in a bit with the omnibus that is in the making. But really, there's 3 modules: the basic module, the more, and that is also with basic metrics, as I said, the more narrative and policies and actions and targets module, and the business partners module. And those 3 types of modules for VSMEs, they will all kind of require more advanced and a little bit more regulatory investments, or kind of compliance investments. What I hear in Brussels is that this may be actually the data requirements also for suppliers, and actually that will be the foundation for suppliers of companies that need to comply. So the small, mid, and large cap companies that need to comply, that they can actually ask this type of information from their supplier, but beyond that, that request will be restricted, so that you cannot overburden your suppliers with all sorts of data points. So that is something that I hear some of the insiders about. So that's, I think, useful information, but it's obviously not sure. It's all in the making. Now, what is key, and that is key actually in the making, news in the making. We received an update today about the omnibus. You may have heard about it. It's an actual existing term that is used by the Commission to kind of streamline different reporting and kind of regulatory ESG regulation packages. CSRD, EU taxonomy, and Csrd, they want to kind of ensure that these 3 packages won't have overlapping demands for companies. And that is actually what it is about. So trying to create one streamlined, call it disclosure requirement. Now, Amanda Koevoet Simonsen on LinkedIn shared just now a nice update about it. So it's expected to be published, the omnibus. That's kind of a simplification package on February 26 in 2025. And really, it's about streamlining. It's not necessarily about reducing the number of data points, but it's still in the making. So there's a lot of interest of reducing the package. But ultimately, that is something that the Commission wants. The Commission does have the kind of ambition to reduce the overall reporting efforts for companies. That is part of the Budapest Accord that was set recently, where kind of the vision for the new Commission was adopted. That was really all about reducing the regulatory burden for companies in the EU. Also, the Draghi report, the famous Draghi reports, they actually also asked for reducing the regulatory burden on ESG. At least that's how they perceive it now. They actually mentioned the number of 25% reduction of reporting. Now, the question is that 25% addressed through streamlining, or will there actually be also a reduction of number of companies? Wim Bartels said in the plenary session, he's the sustainability partner at Deloitte, doing lots of assurance and also part of the kind of EFRAG technical board. He basically said that it is possible that the threshold for reporting will be adjusted, and not just and kind of instead of 250 employees, it may become 500 employees or 750 employees, which would have significant impact on the number of companies in the different member states. And so that is still, let's say, on the menu for adjustment, but it's still a little bit insecure. So yeah, I wouldn't call this very predictable, stable regulation. And that is, I think, very frustrating, especially for those companies that already have invested a lot in this. So it's kind of punishing those who have anticipated and did their fair duty to actually comply. It's punishing them. So really, it would be a little bit unfair for them. On the other hand, doing duplicate work, I don't think that's something that is nice and also kind of something you want to. So it's kind of a double. It has two sides of it. ultimately, we believe that if Europe really wants to be competitive and really wants to kind of win, so to say, from Chinese or American companies, we really also need to acknowledge that there are social, environmental, and human value created, and that can kind of be recognized in the transactions. And the place to get that recognition is in the reports, is in the disclosures. And then you can actually see that, you know, exploitative, ultra fast fashion from China is actually less cheap, because if we incorporate all those effects, you would actually consider it much more expensive than the locally produced or more sustainably sourced fashion from companies such as Gijvens. That is actually ultimately, when you incorporate those social environmental dimensions of value creation, more competitive. And the same applies to American companies that may have less stringent environmental laws, with fracking, for example, and alternative cheap gas. If we incorporate those environmental value extraction into the transactions, their competitiveness will be less compared to European companies. And so we believe that CSRD is actually something that should be at the heart of the competitiveness vision of the EU, and that Mario Draghi, von der Leyen, but also other key advisors to the Commission should acknowledge this. And that's hopefully we can all, with this movement, show that this can be the new competitive motor for the EU. So that was a mouthful. I hope you have some clarity and perhaps also some confusion on a higher level about what we can expect in 2025. It's, well, call it exciting, intense time for the sustainability movement in Europe. But that's it. That's it for now. I will give the floor to Tim, my colleague, who will give a Sinterklaas present. 3 Sinterklaas presents, in fact, to 3 companies. And he will also walk you through what that present is. So he will unpack the present. And then in 5 minutes, we will have a moment for Q&As. And that is something you can already land your questions in the chat if you have questions. And otherwise, we'll open the floor for some more questions and some reflections. So, Tim, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Michel. And very, very excited to have this brief moment to announce the prize winners and to show like what they win. Yeah, before I start, the 5 minutes I have, I will talk about the process you see in front of you. So this is about the double materiality assessment. And the IRO quick scan, Michel already mentioned, is in the middle. So you start with analyzing your business activities, and out of that you identify and list the impacts, risks, and opportunities associated with your business activities. And that is quite a time-consuming process. And with our tooling, we really save time and suggest the IROs. So before I show in live what you have won.
We do it after.
Oh, we do it after. Sorry. So I'm going to show.
The notary is still picking them.
Yeah.
We want to create the tension.
Oh, the tension. All right. Then I'm going to go to the tool now and share, stop sharing and share my other screen. This one. Yes, there we are. So out of the box in our tool, you will get on all the ESG topics and subtopics out of the box in the tool. So you don't have to think about which topics and subtopics there are. We have them for you in the tool already. Then you see that there are no IROs listed down yet. For that, we have this suggest IRO functionality. And what I just mentioned is that this process starts with analyzing your business activities. And these you can add here to the tool. So let me add one, and that is beverages distribution. So I select on top of that the sector, and that's in this case wholesale of food, beverages, and tobacco. But there is like a full list of all kind of sectors that you can select here. This is about the business activity of the company itself. So our tool will give results, so IROs, on the entire value chain, but you just list down here the activities of your own organization to clarify. So this is in the Netherlands. So I select Netherlands. I just give for now a random amount of revenue. And then I'm going to click on calculate. So what happens now is that based on several data sources like our own GID, TNFD and Encore, you see this list of IROs that is suggested just on that activity I just entered. And I will walk you briefly through. So you see here the topics where I started with. And under these topics, you see the impact, risk, and opportunities that we came up with based on our data sources. You see whether it's a risk, an impact, or if I go down, there are also opportunities. So you see these 3 dimensions. You see whether it's a potential or actually already happening. And I think this is the most interesting one. You see it already, whether it's in your own operations or whether it's downstream or upstream in your value chain. Well, then I click on select all, but I could also make a subset and I import them. And now you see that they have become part of your topics spread over the ESG topics. So you can imagine that this really speeds up and kickstarts basically your DMA. Instead of going all manual, you really kickstart and you have the base for validating and assessing these IROs with your stakeholders. So that's my part. And I think then we're going to the exciting part, and that's announcing who actually won these quick scans. So we will do 3 quick scans for the companies that won based on this IRO suggestion functionality. Menno?
Yeah, thank you very much, Tim. Well, you have proven Michel announced you as Mr. Low Cost, High Impact. And I think, I hope you have seen how big a time saver this could be for many companies. We are facilitating a lot of companies who are starting on this. This really proves to be a big time saver, but also, importantly, to be accurate. Okay, so we've looked at the list of participants, and we have asked the notary Sinterklaas to select 3 companies. So if your name is mentioned, unfortunately, we cannot see you. We cannot see the cheers, but maybe drop a reaction in the chat. So we have Fru Mona, who is selected, number 1. You will receive this IRO generation for your sector. The second is Bouwmaat. So you will be receiving this for the retail and construction area. And the third is Taki Europe, I presume, in the seed business. So congratulations, much congratulations to you. Of course, if you are in this setting, if you have not been selected, no worries. Contact us at Impact Institute, and we'll get into a conversation with you how to help you kickstart your Csrd. So that is our goal. So taking a look at the time right now, we are 10 minutes before 1 o'clock, and we have some Q&A questions from participants. 2 questions. Yeah, let's pick another screen. Thank you, Tim, for stepping in. For 2 participants, questions are to Jeske. So Jeske, if you're still online, could you please unmute yourself, and then I will just mention the question to you. So you raised a lot of interest with sharing your best practices, and of course, one of the questions we often hear is not per se on impact, but on data. So how was your data journey during your endeavors? Can you share a little bit about that? So for many companies, that of course is a struggle.
Yeah, I think when we started our journey, yeah, now with the CSRD reporting, you see a lot of software tools, etc. But back then, yeah, I'm sure there was some already. But since we're a small company and we were more used to do it on our own. Yeah, we didn't really use specific tools or anything. So it's more or less, yeah, collecting data and put it in Excel, and that worked for us. And I think why it also worked for us is because we're a relatively small company. So I can imagine if you have thousands of suppliers, then it's more difficult to yeah, to collect all the data. But we have a relatively small supplier base of around 13 sewing facilities, and then of course there are locations further down the supply chain, but in total it's approximately 70. So that's still quite easy to handle. So yeah, we don't have really have used yeah, specific tools or anything to collect the data, if that answers the question.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Jeske. But the follow-up question of Du Guangyugan was also about, if you have that data, could you also transfer that data into to insights, actionable insights, where you could really prove your impact? Did you already see that happening?
Yeah, well, for example, some of the data we got, for example, from through audits that were conducted by Fair Wear Foundation. So they have also a system to yeah, process the data, and also when you do follow-up audits, what has been changed, what are new findings, yeah, which risks were detected during the audit. So of course, CSR is really a broad yeah, a broad thing. So for different kind of aspects, we use, for example, yeah, Fair Wear's system to track our social compliance at yeah, at factories. Yeah, and then for the environmental part, for example, for collecting old worn clothing from our customers, we have another system to keep track of the how much is collected, how much is reused. So it really depends on the yeah, on the type of data of how it's being collected and processed. But yeah, in the end, yeah, we sit down together with all parties involved and get the data from the different departments that are responsible for collecting them.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope this helps due to also be impactful gathering data himself. There is also a second question, Jeske, addressed to you. That's a very familiar question here at the Impact Institute. So you are preparing to be Csrd compliant. You already took some massive steps, as you've shared. With how many people did you do that? What is the resourcing side of it? Because I assume the person who asked this question was worrying, doesn't that take a lot of people to deliver what you did?
Yeah, I think yeah, we are a relatively small company of 100 employees, and we have one person for each of the departments. So I think approximately 10 people were involved in yeah, setting the first steps, so where to begin, and yeah, eventually I think a lot of the time they first look at the CSR department and don't think about other people that are yeah, need to be involved, especially when it comes to CSRD reporting. And yeah, that would of course not be possible if we are with 2 people on the CSR department to do all the reporting. So we really sat down last year together with like an internal project team to kickstart this and divide the responsibilities over the employees. But yeah, in our case, it was about 10 people, but I think that depends on the size of your company as well, of course.
Yeah, thank you very much. And of course, like Tim shared, there is lots of potential to do a lot yourself. So you don't have to hire a lot of resources, but also there are many options in facilitation, also with experienced parties. Thank you very much. We also had a question in from France, company who is preparing to report in 2026 and already being asked by, I assume, their large customers about Csrd, and this triggers questions also internally on Csrd. So the question is, what to do? Should we already start instructing our employees on Csrd, maybe start our journey, or just start first with answering those questions that our clients are asking, and then introduce Csrd later on? So that's also an excellent question. If I am allowed to give a first answer on that, Impact Institute, Michel showed it, has been educating already over 2 years all professionals on Csrd. And you see that in all phases, you could get educated, and that could really be helpful preparing your employees. So I would not postpone it to give you a direct answer, because you can already equip them with some knowledge of the context of Csrd, and also a knowledge why they are asked to answer those questions. So that will be something you could already start by educating specific persons in your company. And secondly, if of course you want to make your whole company aware, and like Jeske told about the bigger group who is involved, who has to be involved. So the 10 people, who are the 10 people in your company, you really want to get into your bigger Csrd team. I think there it could be really wise to focus on a specific educational program, but already in the spirit of onboarding them to do it together with you. So action-based learning and kickstarting. So that was my answer. And with one final question, I'm looking at Michel. You want to answer the final 2 questions?
Let me do that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Edward. And indeed, we need to always be mindful of not becoming Csrd zombies. Csrd zombies, that is those who are mindlessly just, doing what is needed for compliance instead of really understanding the purpose and really doing what it is in spirit. That is a transformation program. And that is why we feel that actually, if you have the right data, sincere data, then you don't have to follow through, don't have to spend too much time on actually going through all sorts of sessions with people who, in all frankness, we see that in practice, don't really know what they talk about. It's really complicated, and you have to have a lot of expertise or actually empirical studies to understand what is the on-the-ground experiences of stakeholders. And it's super useful to hit the ground running with empirical data. And then the conversation with stakeholders, obviously you need to follow through the process of talking internally with colleagues and externally with stakeholders, becomes so much more meaningful and so much more directed, and you can actually focus on what you can do to improve. And so that is actually paradoxically, yes, you use data, and that takes a lot of time away, and that can be interesting, but it's also a struggle, and it's oftentimes uninformed and inaccurate. Therefore, use the empirical data that's out there, and then start from that and hitting the ground running to really focus on making a change and making impact. And so thanks, Edward. Very nice question, and appreciate it. The point, Menno, on the France, yes, in this actual platform, there is education that you can find. And so you can find it on the platform. micro-learning, where you can actually elevate your learning journey for yourself and your colleagues. So, and if you can't find it, let us know. We'll find a way to help you out. There's a few more questions. Did we have all the questions answered? Yeah. Oh, we're complete. That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you had a great lunch and you already learned a bit more about Csrd. And those winners of the Sinterklaas prize, the Sinterklaas prize for today, Fromona, Baumaat, and Taki, congratulations. We hope to see you soon in another webinar, and don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have more questions. And for now, I close the webinar. Thank you so much for your exciting participation, for the nice questions, and also, if particular Schrijvens, thank you for participating in this webinar, and we look forward to working with you in the future.